It's 4 p.m. Cairo local time and you're now watching Q News. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments globally. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has met today with King Frederick X of Denmark at the start of his state visit to Denmark aimed at enhancing cooperation and coordination between Egypt and European countries. Presidential spokesperson Ambassador Mohammed el-Shenawi has stated that President el-Sisi will sign a strategic partnership declaration between the two countries in Denmark, along with the signing of several cooperation agreements. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's European tour will also include Norway and Ireland, aimed at enhancing cooperation and coordination between Egypt and European countries. France Socialist Party's head, Olivier Faure, has said that only a new prime minister from the left would be able to bring about the political change the socialists see as a condition for backing a new government. Macron has begun his latest search for a new prime minister to lead France's unruly parliament after rejecting demands he quit to end a crisis he said was driven by the far right and extreme left's anti-republican front. French President Emmanuel Macron has reaffirmed he would stay on until the end of his mandate due in May 2027. Macron stated that the mandate he was given was 5 years and he will exercise it until the very end. Macron met allies and parliament leaders throughout Thursday as he sought to swiftly appoint a new prime minister to replace Barnier, who officially resigned a day after opposition lawmakers voted to topple his government. Moving to South Korea, South Korea's acting defense minister Kim Sun-ho has stated that he would not obey any order to implement another declaration of martial law. South Korea's defense ministry has apologized for the concerns caused by President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law declaration earlier this week and said that earlier reports of another martial law declaration were not true.
오늘 오전 일각에서 제기된 2차 계엄 정황
South Korea's ruling party leader has stated that President Yoon Suk-yeol should be removed for the country's safety due to his push for martial law, but stopped short of calling for impeachment. Speaking after a party meeting at the parliament, party leader Han Dong-hoon said that Yoon ordered the arrest of prominent politicians over grounds that they were among those anti-state forces during the martial law. The main opposition Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung said the declaration of martial law was a rebellion waged by the president in order to maintain or extend his power.
이번 탄핵에 대해서는 통과되지 않게 노력하겠다.
South Korea's National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik said that he and other lawmakers will make an all-out effort to prevent martial law if President Yoon Suk-yeol declares it again. Yoon shocked the nation and his own ruling People Power Party on Tuesday, December 3rd, when he gave the military sweeping emergency powers in order to root out what he called anti-state forces and overcome obstructionist political opponents. The main opposition Democratic Party has submitted a motion to impeach Yoon and scheduled a vote in Parliament for Saturday, December 7th.
대통령의 어떤 경우에도 군경은 헌법이 정한 자신의 자리를 이탈해서는 안 됩니다. 헌법에 어긋나는 부당한 명령에는 응하지 않음으로써
Protesters have gathered outside South Korea's National Assembly demanding President Yoon Suk-yeol's arrest in the wake of his recent martial law declaration. Inside the National Assembly, opposition lawmakers converged as they chanted, "Arrest him." The main opposition Democratic Party has submitted a motion in Parliament to impeach Yoon and scheduled a vote for tomorrow, Saturday, December 7 evening. And now we move to the latest developments in Gaza. Dozens of civilians have been killed and many more wounded in an Israeli shelling that targeted various areas in the northern and southern war-torn Gaza Strip. Israeli occupation forces bombarded a residential block near Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia, killing over 30 civilians and injuring many others. 2 civilians were also killed in the occupation's bombardment of the Rafa'i school in Jabalia, where displaced people had sought refuge. 3 civilians were killed in an Israeli airstrike targeting the Khirbet el-Atz area north of Rafah. Gaza-based health authorities have announced that the death toll from Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip has climbed to over 44,612, with over 105,834 wounded. Medical reports stated that the Israeli occupation forces carried out 3 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip over the past 24 hours, killing 32 civilians and injuring 95 others. The U.S. State Department stated that the United States disagrees with the Amnesty International's conclusion that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza war. State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vedant Patel told reporters at a regular news briefing that the U.S. continues to consider allegations of genocide in Gaza unfounded. Patel added that the U.S. does not and has not concurred with these past findings regarding genocide. Thousands of patients in Gaza are waiting for Israeli approval for urgently needed medical evacuation to receive treatment for war wounds or chronic diseases. Among the thousands of patients are at least 2,500 children, whom UNICEF says must be transported immediately. According to the UN, since the war began last October, Israel has approved about 39% of evacuation requests. The World Health Organization reports that 14,000 patients of all ages need medical evacuation from Gaza, including more than 4,300 children. Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia, northern Gaza, faces severe challenges due to a 2-month siege by Israeli occupation forces, impacting healthcare and civilians amid ongoing conflict and calls for ceasefire and aid access.
Kamal Adwan Hospital in Beit Lahia, located in the northern Gaza Strip, has been under a strict siege imposed by Israeli occupation forces for nearly 2 months. This blockade has prevented the delivery of essential supplies, including medicine, food, medical staff and ambulances, severely impacting the hospital's ability to function. Israeli forces raided the hospital, forcing medical staff and patients to evacuate and detaining many individuals inside. Additionally, a nearby residential block was targeted and blown up, resulting in several civilian deaths and injuries. The occupation forces has also stormed the hospital, continuing their aggressive actions against both healthcare workers and the vulnerable patients within. The residents of Beit Lahia continue to endure relentless bombardment, widespread destruction, and severe shortages of food and medical supplies. Thousands of people have been displaced as the Israeli forces raid shelters during the escalating military operations that began on October 5, 2024. Amid this ongoing crisis, calls for ceasefire continue, with countries and international organizations arguing for immediate action to protect civilian lives and restore humanitarian aid access.
For more analysis, we now move to Mona in our newsroom.
Thank you so much, Salma. And for further analysis, we're joined from Deir al-Balah by Director of the Palestinian Non-Governmental Organization Network, Amgad Shawa. Good evening to you, sir, and welcome to Qnews.
Thank you.
Now, can you describe the current humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip and the abouts of people there?
The humanitarian condition became severe and complicated due to the Israeli continuous attacks on the Palestinian civilians and civil premises as hospitals. You talked about Kamal Adwan Hospital, and there's many hospitals in the Gaza Strip which was destroyed and became kind of graves for the patients and medical teams, as happened in the Shifa Hospital in Gaza. It was a few months ago. So this is continued in the other hospitals. Now we have Al-Awda Hospital at the north and Kamal Adwan, and we have high concerns about the lives of medical teams, patients, injured people who are locked inside these hospitals, no supplies. And in the same time, we have these massacres in different areas of Gaza, in Iraq and Rafah, and we are denied access to the patients, to the people who are under the rubble of the buildings, which was targeted because of the limited capacity of the civil defense medical teams in order to get in these bodies from outside the rubble. Also, that we have this famine situation which is critical situation due to denial of entry of the basic food needs to the Gaza Strip and to the middle and the south area, and we have 90% of the population who are in such critical condition.
Now, you spoke about three massacres, or you spoke about massacres taking place in the Gaza Strip, particularly those three that occurred in the past 24 hours. Can you provide us more details about those massacres?
Yes, we have a number of massacres happened in the past few hours, but every day, almost every day, we have new massacres happen in the different areas of Gaza, mainly in the north. But we have also concerns that other numbers we have, because we have no contact with the north now, and there is missing people, and we have no direct contact with them. So there is high concerns about the lives of the people of the North Gaza, the tens of thousands of people under such airstrikes and bombardment. In the same time that we have this shortage of supplies in the hospitals to deal with the injured people who are in the critical manners, and they are there's no capacity to evacuate them from the north. This happened whilst we have these critical cases, patients injured who need to be evacuated to get medical treatment outside Gaza Strip. And according to the different parties, we have 25,000 people. Yes, we have urgent cases about 12,500 people, but the total number of people who need to be evacuated more than 25,000 patients and injured, and most of them children and women. This has happened whilst we have these double standards, what we had from the Americans. There is no genocide in Gaza. It's a real genocide, as Amnesty International mentioned in its report 2 days ago. All the aspects of genocide is committed by Israel against the Palestinian civilians on such critical conditions. We are calling on the different international actors in order to urgently act in order to end this war on Gaza Strip, to protect the Palestinian civilians and to get in aid. We have very limited aid supplies which is entered Gaza Strip, which is cannot respond only to 5% of the needs. That this need is increasing day by day due to the Israeli attacks on these civil premises and the infrastructure in Gaza.
Right, the much affected areas are areas that shelter people and the health facilities and areas that is condensed with people. Now, what is the current situation inside the Gaza Strip, particularly of what concerns those areas and in particular the around of the Kamal Adwan hospital?
Now we have had this high concerns in the north, yes, but it's almost became on all over Gaza Strip, mainly in the middle and the south. In the Mawasi area, for example, there is about 800 to 900,000 people who are mostly IDPs, displaced people, are staying on tents, and also in Deir al-Balah and Nusayrat, which is daily under attacks. These tents, 2 days ago, there was about more than 20 people were killed, most of them women, children, by the Israeli attacks on the tents, and entire families were erased. When we are talking about massacres, we're talking about entire family which is raised totally from the record, and this happened every day by day. So the high concerns that these IDPs, displaced people, are suffering. They have complicated suffering due to the famine, shortage of food, and at the same time such staying on cold, and these children are traumatized. There is deficit in providing them with clothes, winter blankets to cover their body.
Right, that was the director of the Palestinian non-governmental organization, Amgad Shawa from Deir al-Balah. We thank you so much for your insights here, and now back to you, Salma.
Thank you so much, Mona, for conducting this interview. A Palestinian man has been killed by Israeli occupation forces during a raid on Balata refugee camp east of Nablus in the occupied West Bank. The man, aged 23, was shot in the head during confrontations that broke out as Israeli military vehicles raided the camp early on Friday morning. Poland has voiced commitment to implement the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants, including the arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The Secretary of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Poland stated that his country is committed to cooperating with the ICC in this regard, noting that the immunity granted to heads of state does not apply in this case. Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich has unveiled plans to dismantle the civil administration in the West Bank, marking a key step in his broader plan to annex the territory to Israel. Smotrich explained that the work was underway to bring this vision to the table. Extremist Israeli settlers have carried out a series of attacks against Palestinians and their property in several West Bank areas. According to the mayor of Silwand, dozens of settlers broke into the Al-Burj area near the town, erecting tents, raising Israeli flags, and displaying banners with racist slogans. Another group of settlers attacked Palestinian residents in the Birin area, east of Yatta in the Hebron Governorate, and threatened to expel them to make way for further settler expansion. The Arab League has announced that the emergency meeting of Arab foreign ministers, which was originally scheduled for this Sunday, has been postponed. The meeting, scheduled to take place at the Arab League's headquarters, was intended to discuss the ongoing Israeli attacks on Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, as well as Israeli threats to Iraq and the current situation in Syria. Requested by Syria and Palestine to address these critical issues, the meeting will now be rescheduled to a later date. And now we move to the latest developments in Lebanon. The Arida border crossing between Syria and Lebanon has gone out of service due to an Israeli attack early today. According to Lebanon's Transport Minister Ali Hamiyeh, Israeli strikes have hit two border crossings linking Lebanon with Syria. Hamiyeh said that the strikes hit just across the border on the Syrian side of both the Arida crossing in northern Lebanon and the Jusayya crossing, which links to eastern Lebanon. The Israeli occupation army has claimed that it has intercepted a suspicious earlier target launched towards the Upper Galilee region in northern Israel near the Lebanese border. The army stated that an investigation was underway. This marks the second time that sirens were heard in northern Israel since the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon began last week. Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati has met with General Galolimi Ponchin, head of the French military delegation to the Ceasefire Monitoring Committee. During the meeting, Prime Minister Mikati reaffirmed Lebanon's key priorities, including upholding the ceasefire, addressing Israeli violations, ensuring the withdrawal of Israeli occupation forces from Lebanese territories, and reinforcing the deployment of the Lebanese army in the south. Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri has officially invited U.S. presidential envoy Amos Hochstein to attend the January 9th parliamentary session dedicated to electing a new president. The invitation was extended during a phone call between the two officials, during which Hochstein reportedly expressed his commitment to accepting the invitation. The upcoming session marks another critical step in Lebanon's efforts to address its prolonged presidential vacuum amidst political, security, and economic challenges. And now we move to the latest developments of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russian President Vladimir Putin has appointed Alexander Qnews acting governor of southern Kursk region, saying a crisis management was needed in the area. Putin said Qnews, in addition to his experience in the legislature, had acted for 2 years as an advisor to Russia's National Guard, and that experience in the security forces will have to be used to achieve the tasks that lie before you. Ukrainian troops made a large-scale incursion into the border region of Kursk in August. Russia's military says some of the territory initially seized has been recaptured by Moscow's troops. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has stated that the use of a hypersonic missile in the Ukraine conflict sought to make the West understand that Moscow was ready to use any means to ensure no strategic defeat would be inflicted on Moscow. Lavrov also said it was a very serious mistake for anyone in the West to presume that Russia had no red lines or that they were being moved again and again. Lavrov also described U.S. President-elect Donald Trump as very friendly, but rejected the notion that Trump is pro-Russian, noting that during his presidency, Trump imposed numerous sanctions on Russia. Russia has reported destroying over 100 Ukrainian drones across several regions in the past 24 hours, while Ukraine stated it successfully repelled multiple Russian attacks. The Russian Defense Ministry stated that its forces repelled multiple Ukrainian offensives and launched counterattacks in several regions. Russian air defenses downed 101 Ukrainian drones and intercepted 2 U.S.-made HIMARS rockets in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, Ukraine's General Staff reported 106 battles with Russian forces, inflicting heavy losses and continuing operations in Russia's Kursk region. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here's what we've been covering. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi meets with King Frederick X of Denmark at the start of his regional tour of Europe. Israeli shelling kills dozens and wounds many in the Gaza Strip. And the Arida border crossing between Syria and Lebanon goes out of service due to an Israeli attack early today. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.